Today marks 1 year since the tragic shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland. And we want to take a moment to remember the 17 victims who were lost on that day. Victims like Aaron Feiss. He was an assistant football coach who threw his own body in front of his students to protect them when the shooter opened fire. Students like Alyssa Al-Hadef. She was only 14 years old. She was on the soccer team. Her mom describes her as talented and smart. And students like Nicholas Dworet. He was a senior and he planned to swim when he got to college.
Each person you see here was someone's daughter, son, husband, or friend. And the shooting has sparked the need to strengthen school security across the country, including here in Southwest Florida. 4 in Your Corner's Jillian Hartman has spent weeks checking to see how Florida schools have made changes to make sure that your kids, your loved ones, are safe at school. Jillian's in Parkland tonight, and Jillian, you spoke with some of these students and they told you about some of the real honest fears.
Tonight outside of Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School is this memorial garden with balloons, flowers, and candles as a special tribute to the 17 victims. Inside the school and other schools across the state looking a lot different than they did a year ago with new security upgrades. I spoke with security experts, mental health specialists, and school leaders in Southwest Florida, getting you answers on what they've learned and what they put in place to keep kids safe.
I think we got shots fired. Possible shots fired.
It was the deadliest high school shooting in U.S. history, killing a football coach, a teacher, an athletic director, and 14 young students.
It was just kind of like unnerving to come to school like in the weeks following. It was just really unsettling.
Grace Chrissy, a senior at North Fort Myers High, tells me she and her classmates were terrified to return to school after Parkland.
I just remember, I think it was the week after Parkland just happened, we did have a fire drill and people were scared to go out of the classrooms, and I saw people crying in the hallways, and that was insane, you know, like no one should feel that unsafe at a school.
The shooting hitting home for some students.
I personally lived right near Parkland. I live across the street.
Bridget called Parkland home for several years when she was a little girl.
Was very affected because I do live with my grandparents and they were expecting for me to grow up there. So they were like, well, this was going to be your high school.
But Bridget feels concerned about any school campus.
I feel like that could happen at any point. That can happen here. That can happen anywhere.
In the case of Parkland, there were a series of apparent security failures. This report from Public Safety Commission highlights several security missteps. According to the report, doors were left unlocked and unstaffed at the school, allowing 19-year-old suspect Nicholas Cruz to access the campus. There was no PA system inside most of the building where the shooting occurred to warn students and staff. The lack of training and drills left kids and teachers vulnerable and confused on what to do when the fire alarm went off that day. Exterior video cameras were on a 20-minute delay. Responding police thought they were seeing everything in real time when they actually weren't. The report also mentions the armed student resource officer, Scott Peterson, who waited outside instead of trying to stop the gunman from spraying bullets.
Security is the most important thing for the children and the staff here at the school.
Since then, a lot has been done in Florida schools to make sure those mistakes don't repeat in the future.
Florida actually made it part of statute.
Governor Rick Scott signed into law the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Act. It outlines requirements and makes sure schools have the money to pay for them.
And I think the changes were substantive. I think they were real.
We sat down with major school districts in Southwest Florida on what those changes are and how they plan to keep your kids safe.
The big enhancement since Parkland is we now have a youth relations deputy on every campus, every day, all day.
All right, guys, having a good day. And they aren't just resource officers, they are educators.
They're mentors, they're teachers, they're friends. In so many instances, a child's first encounter with law enforcement now is a resource officer.
Each SRO you see patrolling the hallways now has to undergo crisis intervention training.
It's training officers to recognize problem behaviors and to identify them early on and to, again, to intervene in those kind of situations.
Upgrades also include single point entry.
Putting a 6-foot fence requires everyone to enter the campus through the main entrance. So all of our visitors that come to campus now have to go to the front door to gain entry onto our campus.
And at every main entrance, visitors will also see this, a video intercom system.
It's called an AI system, and what it is, there's a buzzer that we buzz. In the front office will hear that. They will ask for our ID, who we are, what our business is, and then they'll open the door so we can get in.
Charlotte County spokesperson Mike Riley showed us how it works. Once you're allowed inside, your ID has to be scanned.
And it checks their license plates, whether they're a sexual predator or offender, or whether there's an arrest warrant for them, or they've been charged with any violent crime, and we're not going to allow that person into the classroom.
Security expert Rick Parfit tells me classroom doors now have special security locks.
And it allows a teacher to lock the classroom from the inside without going out into the halls. Those are some of the target hardening things that we're doing.
Requirements also include monthly active shooter drills for both students and staff. So what projects are still in the works? School districts are working on access control doors that can only open with an ID from students and staff.
Our job is to look at everything that's out there and decide what can we do to enhance the security every day. We live in a changing world. It requires us to continue to make modifications.
Those modifications also include enhanced computer software. Charlotte and Lee County schools have a system that alerts the right people if a child at school is online researching something that they are not supposed to.
When we have a social media post that makes reference to a bomb or a gun or something, you know, in a school, it becomes very important.
Law enforcement and school leaders take these threats very seriously, arresting, suspending, and even expelling students if necessary.
I feel a lot safer knowing that, you know, our staff really is putting a lot of effort into the security of the students.
As some students say they feel safer, others say more can still be done.
I feel Parkland happened by a student inside the school, but you can't see inside of our backs. If that were to happen in a classroom, there's no cameras in the classroom.
Law enforcement and school leaders say it may be impossible to keep kids 100% safe, but they will continue to work together to improve school security to protect every child.
It is a team approach. We can't rely on just saying that this is a law enforcement problem, this is a school problem, but it's a community concern.
Security experts and school leaders in our area are meeting with other school districts in the state this month to discuss more ways they can better protect kids. Since Parkland, they say their focus is more on being preventive than reactive. Now, the new statute requires every school to have threat assessment and mental health teams. I have all that information in my report at fox4now.com. In Parkland tonight, I'm Jillian Hartman, Fox 4 in your corner.
All right, thank you.